Be your best self. I know that sounds hokey, but take the time to see the potential in you and believe in yourself and do something with it. You are in charge. No one else is in charge of you. Stop complaining. Get into your own potential and your possibility. Believe in it. When you hold others responsible, you're giving up your own power.
Hey leader, and welcome to episode number 306 of the L3 Leadership Podcast, where we are obsessed with helping you grow to your maximum potential and to maximize the impact of your leadership. My name is Doug Smith, and I am your host, and today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Baratung Advisors. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll enjoy our content and become a subscriber. And you can also watch all of our episodes on YouTube as well, so make sure you're subscribed there as well. And if you've been listening to us for a while, thank you so much, and make sure that you're subscribed too, so you can get every episode every single week that we release one. And if this podcast has made an impact on your life, it would mean the world to me if you'd leave us a rating and review. And thank you to all of you who already have. In fact, I want to highlight a review recently. And I don't know this person's real name, but their name on Apple Podcasts is The Only Tank, and they said this: I happened to stumble on this podcast, I believe through divine appointment, and instantly connected with it. It spoke to my heart in the very first episode and every episode since. Highly recommend this to any business leader. Well, thank you so much for that, and that fires me up. I love hearing about how people connect to the podcast. So thanks again for that rating and review, and thank you to all of you in advance for who are going to do that as well. Well, in today's episode, you'll hear my conversation with Aradhna Oliphant. Aradhna is the president and CEO of Leadership Pittsburgh, and during its 30-year history, Leadership Pittsburgh has produced over 2,400 informed and engaged leaders and linked them with opportunities to help serve our region. And Aradhna is an incredible leader, and her bio is filled with incredible accomplishments. If I read the entire thing to you, you'd be blown away. I encourage you to look it up online. And I've been wanting to interview her for a long time, so it was an honor to finally have this conversation. In the conversation, you'll hear Aradhna talk about how it's a leader's responsibility to make an impact in their community and how to actually do that. You'll hear her share her advice to women in leadership and those who aspire to leadership, and her thoughts on work-life balance when you're raising your kids. And of course, we take her through the lightning round as well. So you're going to love this conversation, but before we dive into that, just a few announcements. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Baratung Advisors. The financial advisors at Baratung Advisors help educate and empower clients to make informed financial decisions. You can find out how Baratung Advisors can help you develop a customized financial plan for your financial future by visiting their website at baratungadvisors.com. That's BERATUNG advisors.com. Securities and investment products and services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Baratung Advisors, LPL Financial, and L3 Leadership are separate entities. I also want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jewelers. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny, and my wife, Laura, and I got our engagement and wedding rings at Henny Jewelers, and we just loved our experience. And not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. In fact, for every couple that gets engaged, they give them a book to help them prepare for their marriage, and we just love that. So if you're in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. And with all that being said, let's dive right in. Here's my conversation with Aradhna Oliphant. Well, hey, Aradhna, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. I've been trying to get you on the podcast for 10 years, so it's quite an honor to be able to sit down and learn from you. And you're in high demand.
Not true. Not 10 years, maybe a few months.
Yeah. But I do admire all the work you do with Leadership Pittsburgh here in our city, and know you've made such a huge impact on so many leaders' lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about today is just leadership. And I am curious, one thing I admire about you is you very quickly, it seems like, developed a lot of influence with leaders in our city. And so can you just talk about the art of, building influence, and what are some things that you've done to build the network that you have in our city and make the impact that you're making?
You're very kind. Thank you, Doug, for inviting me for this recording. I don't know if I believe that I have a lot of influence in the city. When I pick up the phone and call someone, my calls get answered. Yes, if that's, I think they're just like, they're thinking that they don't want to disappoint me. I don't know. I don't know if I would say the level of connectivity that I have in the region across the three sectors was built quickly. Everything seems quick when you look at where you reached, right? I mean, yeah, it's been a journey. I've been in this region about, believe it or not, almost 20 years.
Wow.
And Every step I took, every day I lived here, has led to where I am today and where my connectivity is today. So it was not quick.
Okay. Do you do anything intentional to network? I'm just curious, as you look to build your network of leaders, what are some things you do intentionally there?
The one thing that I'm really intentional about is not looking over people's shoulders. You know how you are when sometimes you're at a meeting, you are or at a networking event, when I say look over people's shoulders, I mean literally and figuratively. When if you're not fully present in a conversation with that person, you're not being true to the moment, to the opportunity of the moment. What made you so important that you have to be in five places, whereas the person who's talking to you is fully present there? So that's the one thing I do intentionally. When I'm present, I'm fully present.
Wow. I love that. And yeah, I tend to get distracted. So that is definitely challenging to me. So I appreciate that. You lead a leadership organization, and I'll just start with just a really basic question there is why is leadership important?
Oh my goodness. I would say the way I think of leadership, it's very important. And the way I think of leadership is through a lens of servant leadership, through a lens of service. And I know that that has biblical roots, I believe. And I was not raised a Christian, or Jewish. So a leader is always in service of something bigger than themselves, something that is different from themselves. And with that in mind, with that servant leadership concept, it's required through everything. When you're devoted to making something better, someone better, see opportunities, you have to lead. I mean, you have to be in service to that particular goal. And you're in charge. You are the person because, as a leader, the only instrument you have to play is yourself in any situation, whether you are the quote unquote the boss or one of the team members. You're always a leader if you think about it. I know it's a very non-corporate version of leadership. Leaders lead. They lead themselves, they lead others, they lead situations, they lead communities. I think that question is it's rhetorical, right?
Right. I would love for you to just give a 80,000 foot view of the programs that you offer and what you offer through Leadership Pittsburgh. But, why are programs like what you offer so important in a leader's journey?
Okay, so you asked about what programs we offer and then why do we believe they're important to a leader's journey. So
Yeah.
I'll address it in those two parts. So with Leadership Pittsburgh Inc., we are a nonprofit leadership institute based in southwestern Pennsylvania. We have several different programs and we connect with the community in a myriad of ways. I think the core principles of our programs, whether they are for established leaders, senior leaders, or for emerging leaders, or for military veterans, is we believe in a strengths approach. We believe in connecting strength to strength and strength to opportunity. And we believe that leadership in a community setting matters. If you are a leader, it's your job. Going back to why leadership matters. If you're a leader, it's your job to be looking out for the community where you live, work, play, and where others' children will live, work, and play, not just your own. And the only way you can get to be that kind of a leader, which in my opinion is the true leader who's serving, is by getting to know the community. So for through all of our programs, there's a very big emphasis on getting to know the region, getting to know the community. As one of my mentors from outside of this region once said, you can't lead a community you don't love, and you can't love a community you don't know. So that thread runs through all of our programs.
Talk to someone who would just be like, I don't know about another leadership program. I hear about those all the time. I don't think I need that. What would you tell that person?
Well, if you don't believe in growing and serving, then you do not need our programs. I agree with them. But if they believe in growing, that they are not fully finished yet, If they feel they're fully done and they're fully finished, I would actually say that that's the first way to becoming unleader-like. But anyway, you're always growing. You should always be wanting to learn. You should always be wanting to say, how else might I serve? How else might I grow? Time is important. How you prioritize your time is important. Our programs are not what I call spectator sport. You have a lot of fun in our programs. All of our alumni will tell you that they have a lot of fun. They enjoy learning, they get engaged, make new friends. But if you're looking for a spectator sport, that's not our programs. We are a serious community leadership offering. If you're interested in being a leader in your community, and if you're not, that's fine. Not fine, but that's your choice.
What are the common issues that you see holding people back when they come into your program? I'm sure after all the leaders that you've seen through, do you see commonalities between the things that hold people back from reaching their potential?
The most thing that I feel that the board and I have to constantly fight against is this thing of, I don't have time to participate. And which busy people really, I mean, again, time is the commodity that you can never get back, right? So we understand that. So that's what holds people back from applying. And when someone says, I don't have the time now, or rather, I'm so busy, maybe when I have time, I will apply. And I say that only the very busy people get selected. So when you have time, you may not be able to get selected. So I know I'm answering a different question than you asked, but what is it that is holding people back from applying? Once they apply, and if they get selected, and if they participate, nothing holds them back. The only thing that holds people back from reaching their true potential is that thing of looking over the shoulder that we started this interview with, when they're not fully present. When they think that they're buzzing blueberry, strawberry, Apple, iPhone, iWatch has control over them rather than them as leaders having control over what they have to look at. That's what holds them back. And they're always like in our senior leaders program, we now have about 50 to 60 people curated every year. There are always one or two who get selected, but who think that they can skate through it like as though they're auditing a course. And those are the ones who lose the opportunity, and they are the ones who actually lose because they lose, and their cohort mates lose because they're not sharing the gift that is them with the others because they're so busy answering their blueberries and iPhones.
Yeah, you talked a lot about being present, and I'm just curious. I'm sure, all like you said, everyone's short on time, everyone's distracted, everyone's getting 1,000 emails a day. What have you learned just in your personal leadership journey and or in helping others about being present, shutting off distraction? Do you have any practices in your life to actually be present or to be contemplative and think? I'm just curious what that looks like in your life.
Yeah, for me, I would like to do more meditation when I find that I'm in a high period of stress. Meditating really helps. Grounding myself on an everyday basis, like if I've been out with work or, I begin my day with, I'm a Starbucks nut. I know that's not considered very fashionable because I'm not going to the local, fancy coffee shop. So I begin my day generally by getting a cup of coffee from Starbucks. When it's good weather, I walk, and that sort of like begins my day, whether my day is beginning at 7 a.m. or at 9. That's how I begin my work day. End of day, work day is unfortunately for me rather fluid. I'm always on email, but like when I'm here right now, Doug, with you, I'm not looking at my email. I'm not looking at my cell phone. I'm fully present when I'm here. But if I'm not in a meeting, I'm always on email. So I don't have good discipline about that. But the end of the day, generally when I go, okay, I'm done, is I have a tiny, 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 very tiny bit of a spiritual practice. I do that. And if it's a weekend, I have a glass of Chardonnay, and that starts my weekend. If I'm traveling, what my husband and I have done is come up with this because we are both, we tend to be always on email or phone or something. So we decided that We look at emails now twice a day, even on vacation, once in the morning while having our cup of coffee, and we give each other the freedom like that. For that 45 minutes, we are checking emails. And then once just before dinner, we do that. Otherwise, we were not even letting vacations seep in. So just something to mark my beginning, something to mark my end.
Prior to the interview, we were talking about influence, and I loved your insight on this. You and your husband both have a very visible platform in our city. As I mentioned, you have a lot of influence, which also
I
means
didn't
in
say
your
that. You said that. I said I
yes,
have
yes.
connectivity.
Oh, I'm confirming it for everyone listening. You both have a lot of influence. We were talking about how when you have that influence, you have to be the face of the organization as the leader. Can you talk about how you view your responsibility as, the head of your organization and what your board shared with you? I just thought that was really insightful.
Yeah. So when I was a relatively new president and CEO of Leadership Pittsburgh Inc. And those people who know me now might get surprised about this because I'm very comfortable speaking on behalf of the organization, with my board's consent, of course. I used to be like, nah, I shouldn't be up front. Someone else should be up front. I don't want to do that. And my board chair at that time, Mr. Art Stroid, took me aside a couple of times and he said, Aradhna, I see that you are hesitant to do this. It's your job to do it. It's not about you. You represent our organization and you represent the brand of our organization. So if the brand of an organization called Leadership Pittsburgh Incorporated has to be that of leadership. So step into it. Step into your own leadership on behalf of the organization's mission. And once I had that reframed for me, that's my job, it is for the purpose of the organization, I started getting very comfortable.
It seems like that was a pivotal moment, as far as coaching and helping you become a better leader yourself. I'm just curious, have you had any other moments like that throughout the course of your leadership journey where, maybe a mentor spoke in your life or a coach, or you got feedback that changed everything for the way that you lead?
Oh my goodness, I'm getting feedback all the time. I mean, I still invest in my own development because I believe, again, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I need to grow, and especially as the CEO of a leadership organization, I've got to walk the talk. I've got to say, okay, if I'm saying you're not perfect, I'm not perfect either. So how do I grow? So I've gone on and with my board's encouragement, I invested in leadership training for myself, like formal leadership training around mindfulness twice. I participated in, I'm a neuroscience-based trained coach. So I became a coach, certified coach. I don't practice it. I don't have private clients is what I'm saying. So those things were really, really helpful. And then moments like the one that I narrated to you, when someone says, you're doing something which is not the way it should be done, or have you thought about, I pay more attention to it. When I was still learning a lot more than I'm learning now, I may have been a little bit more defensive, Doug, about, oh no, I should have done it that way, or no, my organization should have done it that way. Over time, you realize that the universe, through the people around you, is always sending you signals. If you hear something twice, pay attention. One, one in 50, it's probably, someone has a pet peeve or, too much. But if you hear something twice, pay attention. You may choose not to do anything about it, but at least pay attention.
Yeah, I think I've heard, I've been told to focus since I was in first grade, probably 50 million times. So I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to grow, but that's a challenge for me. But no, I think that's really, really insightful. If you hear it twice, then it's probably realistic. Because sometimes feedback's not helpful at all. You talked about how you've changed since when you were younger. You used to be young, more defensive. I know you guys also have an emerging leader program. Would there be any other advice that you would give young leaders as you've worked with them?
You don't know it all yet, and you never will. But when I was younger, I'm sure I thought. Sometimes you can get older and you can still think you know it all. It's not about age. You've got to be open to learning. And I have a very strong belief, and that may be because of where I was raised, in humility. I would just say, you don't know it all. And I would say that to young or old.
That's beautiful. I want to go back to community impact for a moment. You said that's the main focus of what you help everyone focus on. And I love that quote about loving your community and making a difference. What would you tell a leader who would say, I want to make an impact on my community, I just don't know how? What does that actually tangibly look like? And what are some actual tangible things that I could do now to make a difference?
Well, apply to Leadership Pittsburgh's programs.
Boom.
To begin, and the applications are open right now. The cohorts are beginning in the fall, and it is a very competitive process. So that's one way to start, to get a tangible way to explore.
Well played.
Another tangible way is look around you, find time to volunteer, and don't worry about it, if whether it is one person, two people, your entire synagogue, the church, the temple, environmental cause, anything. Do something, and then doors open.
Another service that you all offer is board matching, which I think is really, really interesting. You help match people on nonprofit boards. Why is board involvement important, and why should people consider joining one?
So it takes your contributions up a notch or several notches to scale, right? Because when you're serving on a nonprofit board, if it's a functional board, you are contributing to strategy. You're in charge of governance. You are the trustee of the community's trust in that nonprofit. You are that conduit. When the community is donating money to a cause, it is your job as a board member to make sure that the money is being put to good use, that the organization's mission is being achieved in the best way possible, not to do the work of the executive director or the president themselves, but to guide them, to be a partner to them. So it's a greater level of responsibility, because now you're talking about impacting an organization's trajectory. And that's why it's important. I also believe that leadership in a community setting is exercised through being a part of boards and commissions and committees and task forces. And so if you want to be a leader in the community, that's what you have to do.
What advice would you give to women in leadership today, or women that are aspiring to be in leadership roles today?
Believe in yourself. You're capable. There will be times in life, especially in a woman's life, where you'll feel guilty that you're not doing this enough. If you are a child rearing in those stages, there'll be times where you'll feel, I'm not being a good mother, and I'm not being a good wife, and I'm not being a good sister or daughter, or fill in the blank in the relationship. It's only natural that I don't know how much men feel that and not feel that. I'm not a man. So I can only speak on behalf of based on my lived experience. There were times that I felt really guilty all the time. And it's only looking at the rear view mirror that I realized that was the season of my life. That's when my children were little and I was running from the job to the babysitter to the soccer tournament to the orchestra, the band, the this, the that. And I felt rushed all the time. And I felt like I was not giving anything my best. And it's possible that was true. But my children now, my boys who are grown men now, when I talk to them, they go, Mom, you feel that way, but we turned out okay. And I say, yeah, there by the grace of God, But so I would say to my younger women friends and professionals, or those who are aspiring to be back in the world of profession, in a professional role, or starting a professional career, don't be so hard on yourselves. It's okay. And there is nothing, and I've been saying this for 15 years, I should have written about it then. There's nothing like work-life balance. There's only work-life calibration, or sometimes work takes priority, and some days life takes priority, and we all work through it, and it's okay. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad person, and I think as women, I mean, there was a recent McKinsey report that I was reading, McKinsey and I think Lean In. It says that women, due to the pandemic, it had to come up, right? The pandemic had to come up. Women during the pandemic have, in professional spheres, have taken on a greater burden within companies of dealing with burnout of others as compared to their male counterparts. And they are feeling burnt out. So think about that, right? And in their latest, this is, I think, a 7-year running study, and they found that last year, 1 in 4 women professionals were thinking of downstepping from whatever career, whichever rung they were on. And now it's 1 in 3. That is real. Our companies, our partners, we as women, we have to pay attention to it. It's okay. We are not bad people. It's all right. Give ourselves the grace.
Such good advice. Yeah, my wife and I have 3 little ones, and we're in the middle of that season. My wife is in leadership at a sales company for a tech company, and that's just so good. So thank you. We need constantly reminder that we are in that season of rush, and it's just like we don't feel like we're giving anything our all, and we're all in people, and so that's been frustrating. But yeah, it's just good to hear that we're not alone, and everyone experiences that.
Most of us, my goodness, 3 young ones. How many? How old are they? And boys, girls?
Yeah, 2 girls and a boy, and they are they'll be 6, 4, and 1 coming up now, which is
my
crazy.
Goodness! And both of you work outside the house. Oh my goodness! There must be chaos in your house.
Yes, it's chaos, but it's fun. We enjoy it. Yeah.
It's okay. Sometimes laundry doesn't get washed, every weekend, and it's okay.
We're like, if we could just hire someone to do our laundry, our life would be so much better. So if anyone out there is listening, we will pay you big bucks to come do our laundry. Yeah.
And then you do your laundry, and then it just sits in those laundry baskets, and it doesn't get, folded away, and then you're digging in on Monday morning.
Oh, that is our life right now. Literally, and the mountains of laundry is insane. Like literally, I mean, it goes halfway up the wall to our ceiling. It's
everyone experiences that, Doug. Everyone does, and they think they're the only ones.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me know we're normal and to not being so hard on ourselves. That's extremely insightful and invaluable. So, all right, are you ready for the lightning round?
I don't know. It depends on the lightning round questions. All right.
Do
I get to say I pass? Take a pass?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Then I'm ready.
Yeah.
Then I'm ready.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
Oh my goodness, this is not a lightning round. I get so much good advice all the time. I was speaking at a conference on Tuesday, something like that. And after the conference, this was in Indiana, PA, one of the ladies who is a professional coach herself was in the audience, and then she and I were talking at reception. And I've got some transitions coming up. And she said, just believe in yourself, Aradhna. It'll happen. It did before for you. And then you get these wisdom, these pearls all the time. It's just that you have to, as they say, that when the pupil is ready, the teacher would appear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I find that in my life all the time.
Same. If you could put a quote on a billboard for everyone to read, what would it say?
Shine like the sun for others.
I love that. What's the best purchase you've made in the last year for $100 or less?
I'm going to show it to you. Others.
Let's go.
It's this big, giant water bottle.
That's awesome.
For $11 because I didn't used to drink enough water. And now it's timed and I have to drink it. And I feel guilty when I don't.
It's a beautiful water bottle.
Actually, one of my teammates gifted it to me for Christmas.
Oh, very cool. Do you have a book or maybe, two or three if you're a reader that you find yourself giving away most often to others?
I read a lot all the time. I'm also a big reader of Harvard Business Review, for example. A book, gosh, there are just so many little bits. I love that. It's an easy read.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite podcast or two?
American Life, several of the NPR podcasts I like.
What do you wish people knew about your journey that they may not know?
I don't know if it's a part of my journey in some way or not, but it is. I love to paint walls, and I'm not good at it.
Say more about that. Do you just have a wall in your house that you paint every day just for fun? Or?
I could.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I could. I love to paint walls. It's like, oh, something changes. I like change. I like transformation, and I like to have a role in it, somehow. And it doesn't have to be a visible role. So you just sort of like, oh, it transformed. Look, the room looks so nice. Doesn't matter about the edges, but or the ceiling.
Beautiful. What's your greatest challenge right now?
My greatest challenge right now at a personal level is navigating leaving a region I've called home.
In your life, do you have a favorite failure that led to a valuable lesson?
Oh my goodness, if I could only, this is definitely not a lightning round when it comes to that question in particular, if I can only count the mistakes. Yeah, there was one in particular that stands out as a manager/leader, someone that we hired and lots of great potential. I didn't give her enough time to even get comfortable with the change. And the lesson I've learned from there is just because someone has a lot of experience and have great potential doesn't mean that you expect them to rise up to that, like in their first month.
Wow. Did that person leave, or did you let them go too early, or just had unrealistic expectations for them?
We had a couple of conversations, and this person is self-aware enough to know that things were not working out. And, and they were also trying a completely new sector of job. So they were also getting used to the pace of the small nonprofit organization, which is entrepreneurial and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm a little crazy, right? I'm like, there's something new all the time happening and there's excitement. And so they went back to the field that they were comfortable in and were great in. And I was one of their references. And then they have gone on to be in that field to take on an even higher role. And I was a reference then. So it's not in some ways, it was not a failure. It ended up being okay. But the lesson I learned was that the rub we were having was not because of this person's potential or experience, but the rub we were having was because of my unrealistic and impatient expectations.
Wow. You get to spend time with a lot of leaders. I'm sure you're very curious and want to learn from people. Do you have a go-to question or two that, when you get to spend time with a great leader, you always ask?
No. I'm just not that, Doug, I'm just fully present.
Yes.
I'm just curious. I really do care about people. I mean, like I wanted to know the minute you said you have children, I want to know how many you have. What, and how old are they? And it's not a question I want to get to know you. It's not just your job. Who are you as a person is what I'm interested in. And if you engage with me, I want to engage with you. And if you don't engage with me, you must be more important than spending time with me. So that's okay too.
Wow. The overwhelming theme of this interview for me is just be present and don't look over the shoulder. So thank you. What's your biggest leadership pet peeve?
Leadership pet peeve. Say more about that. What do you mean by that question?
So something that drives you crazy, that you see leaders, maybe it's a behavior or something that they do over and over again, and that's like that. I cannot deal with this when leaders do this.
When they don't listen. I mean, to each other, to the team members around them, to people who may be supposedly higher up in hierarchy, when they don't listen to the signals, and when they're just not, again, not fully present, right? They're thinking about the answer. They're thinking about how their grief, their pain, or their success was greater than whatever the other person is trying to tell them. And they're trying to relate, they're probably not coming from a bad place, but listen.
What's something that you've done? Maybe, I don't know if you have a bucket list, but maybe something you've crossed off your bucket list, or a bucket list type experience that you've done that you think everyone on the planet should experience before they die.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't have this on my bucket list, and I don't know if everyone. I mean, it's their bucket list. Well, how dare I add something to their bucket list?
Please, I want you to add something to my bucket list. It's ever growing.
I went on not Chile, where was it? And I did one of the longest zip lines through the forest, like miles. And I was so scared. I was so scared. I closed my eyes and in that little bundle, and I said some mantras just to get to the other side, but it was the best experience. Costa Rica.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Miles. That's crazy. It was miles long. That's incredible.
And you went on one mountain, and then you got on a platform, and then you went to oh my goodness. I would do it again, and I would be scared again.
Is there film of this? Is there did you have a GoPro on or anything?
No, but there's another crazy thing that I did in that same trip with my son when I went river water rafting, and it was supposed to be like level 2 difficulty, but the storm had come through, and now it was level 4. Gosh, yeah, but so much fun.
You're here, yeah. You live to tell about it. And I guess, so do you have anything on your bucket list left, or is there any experiences you want to have before you die?
No, Doug, I haven't really. I love to travel. I love to experience new things. And the world has so much to offer that, I don't know. I really, really don't have a bucket list. Maybe I should, but I don't. I mean, there's joy at every corner.
You spoke to this earlier, so you may have already answered it, but I'm just curious, if you could have coffee with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Even though you are a girl, you're worth it. And you picked a very fascinating age, because when you said 20, that's what triggered it for me. Mm-hmm.
On the other end of your life, when you get to the end of your life, looking back, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be? That
people say that she truly cared. Whether it's my family, whether it's a community I get blessed to be a part of, people, a pet. She truly cared.
Anything else you want to leave leaders with today?
Oh my goodness. Just go out and be your best self. I know that sounds hokey, but take the time to see the potential in you and believe in yourself and do something with it. You are in charge. No one else is in charge of you. Stop complaining. Get into your own potential and your possibility. Believe in it. When you hold others responsible, you're giving up your own power.
Well, Aradhna, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. It was rich. Again, hopefully our paths will cross again, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next season of your life.
Thank you. It's been a joy talking with you, and forget about the mountains of laundry. Just go and enjoy your children and life and cook something maybe for your wife.
That sounds great. Well, thank you, Aradhna.
Bye-bye, Doug. Thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, hey, leader, thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Aradhna. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can find ways to connect with her and links to everything that we discussed in the show notes at l3leadership.org/306. And leader, as always, I want to challenge you that if you want to 10x your growth this year, then you need to either launch or join an L3 Leadership Mastermind group. Mastermind groups have been the greatest source of growth in my life over the last 5 years. And if you're unfamiliar with what they are, they're just simply groups of 6 to 12 leaders that meet together for at least 1 year in order to help each other grow, hold each other accountable, and to do life together. So if you're interested in learning more about masterminds, go to l3leadership.org/masterminds. And as always, I like to end every episode with a quote, and I'll quote Greg Rochelle today. He said this, he said, "Your organization doesn't become stronger by what you do. Your organization becomes stronger by who you empower." So good, leaders, so good. Your organization doesn't become stronger by what you do. Your organization becomes stronger by who you empower. I hope that this episode encouraged you. Know that Laura and I love you. We believe in you. And keep leading, leader. Don't quit. The world needs your leadership. We'll talk to you next episode.